I just want to thank everybody for showing up on this early morning and supporting Stark Raving. Yay. Yay us.
Yay.
Yay us. I'd like to start first to just talk about just basically the state of publishing today. And if I could, I'd like to start off with John, because John, you started out in the 70s?
Yeah.
And so you've seen the change happening. I mean,
I think I've taken 5 publishing houses down with me. Yes, there's been a tremendous change, and there's only about 5 publishers left, I think, with all the consolidation. But then even that got disrupted by digital, so who knows what the future of publishing is going to be.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Stark Raving is going into some sort of digital format, because I guess it's going to be the future.
does everybody else feel like that we're going to be moving up to this, and that's where we're going to stand now?
Well, the future is taking a new approach to publishing books, a new venue and avenues for getting books to the readers, because reading has changed. Not only has publishing changed, but reading has changed. The way people read in snatches and on their tablets and on their phones, and Stark Raving and the model that's being put out as far as these short, sharp, punchy, fun novels is a way to channel that to the reader through a new avenue. It's not just Amazon or Barnes & Noble or whatever. We have a consolidated effort here that's something very different and a new avenue to bring all of these authors to the readers that are going to want to read them.
I think that's an interesting thing to bring up about Stark Raving, is the fact that it is, if you go with Amazon, you're kind of stuck with your Kindle. If you go with Nook, you're kind of stuck with the Nook. And the thing that's interesting about Stark Raving and its platform is that it's available to everything. You can get it on your Kobo, you can get it on your Droid, you can get it on all of that stuff.
In the digital world that we're living in now, it is all about choice and choice for consumers. So I think that if you're not providing your consumer, in this case the reader, the choice across all platforms, they're going to tune you out and they're going to move on to the next option that gives them that choice to pick and choose and do what they want. Because if you look at the social media sites and any of the big web applications that have really taken off, they are all about total freedom of choice and the total mobility of the user application. So I think that's what hopefully is going to work really well with this.
Well, I think one of the great aspects of the world right now is click to buy now.
Yeah.
And if you can do that for Stark Raving, and if you can be a subscriber and have it downloaded, I think that's the thing. I was asking how many people have started out, working in the film industry. It's sort of a comparable kind of thing. I mean, you've gone from the advent of television, which was going to be the downfall of Hollywood, the VHS, which was going to be the downfall of Hollywood, and it's all seems to be moving along. There's still product being made. There's still people watching movies.
There's still people making money.
Yeah.
Plenty of money. One of the things that I was taking issue with the question is, on a deep level, I don't really care what the future of publishing. You can find articles from the 1920s about the death of publishing, right? And really the subtext of the article and the subtext of every conversation is that things change, and how much anxiety is that going to produce for either the person creating the content or the person receiving the content, My reaction is to have no anxiety about it and to just be rather pragmatic. The thing that's cool about this, other than the awesome Stedman logo, which is fucking awesome, which really attracted me to it because it has, it's not just the image, but it has an anarchist feeling behind it that is both collective, and that we're a group, and also very individual at the same time. And I'm turned on by the dissonance of those two things. That's why I decided to do it. Is that it's way too punk rock not to do it. And so that's why I'm here. I can't grow a mohawk to save my life, but I can fucking write one. So, that's my attitude about it.
Then you feel the whole e-publishing thing is a great opportunity for people
yeah,
to
it's
jump
awesome.
in.
It's awesome. And then if we decide if people are turned on by reading novels on postage stamps, I'll put it on a postage stamp. It doesn't pay to be precious about too much about the format. I like books personally. I like the smell of this place is awesome. Yeah. It smells like old books. I love old books. I even made a pulp novel and printed it on like brown paper to make it look as old as possible. I'm only in my mid 40s, but I'm horribly 20th century. Like, I miss the sound of typewriters and things like that. But I also like the Sex Pistols, and I like loud music, and I feel like this publishing company can be the literary equivalent of that. And I think that's really exciting.
Does anybody kind of equate Stark Raving with the old pulps? You know, with the that you would buy for 10 cents, and you would you get your one novella and your 3 short stories and that kind of thing.
Definitely, I think especially with the shorter format books, it's definitely in the same vein.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the intention. It goes along with what we were saying about people changing their reading habits. This is something you can read one long sitting or a few short sittings, and I think the intention is that, as in the old days, there were the old science fiction magazines like Astounding. There was Black Mask and other detective magazines. You had a bunch of writers putting out a bunch of stuff, all the different kinds of stuff that they wanted to do, and it was cheap enough that anybody could just go and get it and get as wide a variety of literature as they wanted to. So I'm excited about this. I think it's really useful for authors. And I think many others were not being served by the old publishing system. And I was one of the last to admit that ebooks could be a good thing on the basis that there was so much crap going out there. What I didn't do was realize that readers are smart enough to find the good stuff among the crap. So, this is the way that all the people that have been mistreated by their publishers, and a lot of people who have come along too late to be mistreated by their publishers, will get a chance to get their work out there. And I think that's all, it's all a writer really wants. I mean, other than to make $1 million, but, you just want that fair chance.
Waves of technology have always come around, right? And when that sort of wave happens, you have 2 different groups here, right? You have one that's the consolidated power, the people who are the big publishers, and they had always planned on keeping that power. And so the new technology really only threatens their position, despite whatever amount of capital they have to transition into this new economy. And then there are people who sort of rise up from the darkness. And in that sort of wildness, they find opportunities because they're thinking ahead. Amazon didn't destroy the publishing industry. Amazon is an option for the publishing industry. Right. Things like Facebook, who would have known that that's what people would have wanted to use unless it was available to them? And in the beginning, they are anarchical. They do seem totally wild, and everyone's like, how is this going to change the economy? Well, and then it does, and suddenly, they're the new sort of consolidated power.
The thing is, the pool is so diluted. There's a zillion places to find good reads, good reading. Goodreads actually is one of them. You made a good point when you said a bunch of writers putting out a bunch of work, because I think the way it's going, you're going to have to make less off of more. You're just going to have to put more out there to
compete with this diluted pool.
compete
Do you think there's a burden on the writer to have to keep putting out more and more and more content? Do you think writers of the ebooks can be a book a year writer? Or do you have to be a 2-book, a 3-book? Do you have to really put it out?
Well, readers are becoming more nimble, so writers have to be more nimble. And yeah, we still have to prove ourselves.
In the old publishing system, the novella was dead. There was no market for it. There was a minuscule market for short stories. E-publishing has opened the market hugely wide for the novella, the 25,000, 30,000 word novella, in which the writer can't, our job as writers is to entertain. That's our job. Our goal is to make you think, and we can do that in 25 to 30,000 words. But as you said, we've got to do that more often now because it's changed. Music industry changed when the MP3 came out, okay? When the internet came out and there was distribution systems for independent musicians who were not treated well by the big corporate music companies. The same thing has happened now with ebooks. We're able to independently take the power into our own hands as independent authors, but also as groups of authors under the Stark Raving logo, that we can come and group together and have control over how we put this stuff out. If the authors are treated right and given the opportunities that Stark Raving has given us to produce the work that we want to produce, then the readers are all going to benefit from that.
Yeah. The really cool thing about Stark Raving as a portal right, for people to find the work of particular authors is that, people like brands. People get emotional about brands. They get connected to brands. I mean, that's, it's why I buy an iPad, even though there's something cheaper that might be faster. It's like, I'm having a relationship with Apple. Right now we're very close. I think it's going to go on. I think this is the keeper. People like brands. Comics fans, and I come from a comic book background. People will argue over which is better, Marvel or DC. They'll argue over the characters, like who's stronger, Superman or the Hulk. Superman. They will get, they get invested, and I think that the cool thing and the opportunity here is for all of us to become a family that people get invested in.
Yeah. I'll buy anything with the hard case crime logo on it, whether I know the author or not. Because, because I see that, I know what I'm going to get.
Yeah, and I think that we have an opportunity for that as well. I started reading some of the old pulp novels. They're still awesome. They're often terrifyingly racist and sexist, but they're awesome. So being given the opportunity to write stuff like that that's totally not racist and sexist is fantastic and really exciting.
Well, the interesting thing, I think what we're kind of hitting on here is having the right platform, having some place where that you can call home, because as opposed to just casting your bread out on the waters. Yeah. You also have guidance in that you have, at the moment Gary is the editor, so he's going through stuff. It's the cream rise to the top, and branding, I like that. I hadn't really thought of that before, of having this become the brand and the go-to place. And I interrupted you, you were about to say
it's okay. I was going to say, it's really easy to downplay the importance of a really strong editor for any kind of writing. And what I found from a lot of independent ebook publishing is that it's lacking in quality editing. And that's what I was always sort of afraid of trying, I guess, the idea, e-publishing, because there's that lack. The thing that Scholastic had or Penguin had, they have really, really strong editors who are giving you a really critical eye and good feedback. And that's what I feel Stark Raving it has in spades. You have a really powerful editor who can tell you when you're really screwing up, and if you need to fix it, or if it's in kind, if it's not, and what people will want to read as time goes on, as all of our books come out, and people begin to see what this brand means, you'll get better quality writing essentially from everyone here.
I've had the good fortune to work in comics with a phenomenal editor. And then I had the misfortune of working with a really in-over-his-head editor. And the difference in quality of the output was phenomenal. And it wasn't a reflection on the ability of the author, not only myself, but others as well. It wasn't a reflection on our ability to write. It was just a reflection on getting that feedback. Someone saying, like, this scene's not as clear, or like emotionally not as clear. And if you hear that, you go, oh, yeah, I guess let me fix that, and it's no big deal. I think editors are, in this day and age, people complain far too much about editors. Editors are amazing. A great editor, if you write a 100,000-word book and it's not great, the right editor can help you write an 80,000 word book that's phenomenal. And I think that one of the things that's really amazing about publishing is that it is collaborative. I think magic comes out of collaboration. People sitting alone in their homes writing novels and then publishing them with all their spelling errors and plot missteps and broken characters and dangling, sentences is irritating and adds noise to the world, not signal. I want to hear the signal. I want to write the signal. I have no interest in the noise.
Which is what I love about Stark Raving having Gary Phillips on board. I mean, there's a critical eye.
Well, I always say that writing is a lonely process, but it doesn't have to be a lonely business. And so with the Stark Raving group, with all of us as authors working together, working with Gary and the other editors, it is a group effort to make this thing all come together. And it gives us reassurance, it gives us guidance, and it's a way to make a better product for all of us. And that's all, we all want to do that. We all want to tell a better story.
I also think that, see if you agree with this, the fact that they are the shorter novels, the fact that people will read them quickly, it's a springboard also to your other works. When I was a bookseller, I used to, when people come in and say, what am I going to buy? I don't know what to get. I would push anthologies. And the reason I would push anthologies is because you can taste everybody.
Right.
You have 18 tastes here. If there's somebody here you like, you're going to go to Nathan Walpow. You're going to go to Paul Bishop. You're going to get one of these books by that author that you like. Do you feel that perhaps Stark Raving is going to do the same thing for your other more traditionally
vaguely disturbed by the idea of tasting like something? I'm like, am I barbecue? Am I pickles? I don't know. Yeah, I think that's great. I think that association, like all of us being on the same shelf, is very cool. And
it's like Laurie was saying. I'm someone who I write a lot, and I try to get it out there without having to wait for the traditional publishers to come knocking on my door. I've had limited success with that. I've had a decent amount of success in the small press world, and the idea of just putting a lot of stuff out there and hoping that when you read this, oh, I like that, let me go type in this name into Google or into Amazon or whatever it is, and like you say, having that springboard onto the next thing and the next thing. And then with branding, hopefully the same thing. Like, oh, I like that book that was on Booksy. Let me see what else is there. And since my books is one of the first, it's already done, it's turned in, it's one of the first coming out, I guess that means you all have to emulate me, so.
We all do anyway.
Read away.
Hard act to follow.
One thing that's really great about the digital world is, when I have a bookstore like this, the first thing I do is, I love to browse, and when I browse, I always grab something. Oh, what's this? And I'll read the first page or two or whatever. And what's great digitally is that you can sample stuff and taste it, as you said, and say, this is interesting, huh? And then a lot of times that's what grabs me. And that's the best stuff I've ever read, is the stuff that I've sampled first, and gee, this kind of sings to me here, and then boom, I'm off to the races.
Well, it's important. Like, I'm a bookseller, so it's important to keep that relationship with bookstores. You hand sell books, and so you need to keep that relationship open, which it's hard with ebooks. Booksellers with ebooks, it's very hard.
Yeah.
What a lot of people have been saying about branding and having an editor probably used to be called the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
When you bought a Simon & Schuster or a Knopf, you knew you had Sonny Maida editing it. And the opposite of that is the e-world of self-published books. There is no gatekeeper, and some of this stuff, I picked up just the other day, probably the most famously bad book of all time. It's called Pink Mule's Fuzzy Slippers. And there were whole articles about it in the Village Voice and New York Review of Books. It is just awful. Nobody can get through more than 100 pages, and it's 600 pages long. But that's what the world is.
100 pages could be awesome.
Yeah.
No one will
I know.
They know that, yeah.
You better go back to reading it.
Yeah, I'll go back. But having the gatekeeper of Booksy, I guess we should call it, it could be a wonderful thing for.
I think gatekeepers are totally underrated. I have a friend who's, like a lot of us, sometimes when you're an author, you don't quite find your thing. Like, you think you're a science fiction author, but it really turns out you're a crime author, or you think you're a crime author, but really romance is where you're strong. And this guy hasn't found his thing yet, but so he decided to write a YA novel, and then got frustrated when they asked him to do a second draft. And sort of like, what the hell? What's wrong with the second draft? I'll write 800 drafts if it takes me that long to get it right. Hopefully not, because I have other things I'd like to do.
Right.
But gatekeepers are fantastic, and maybe sometimes a book is bad, and the gatekeeper should shut the door.
Yeah.
That saves us all a little headache later.
One thing I don't think we've touched on is that Booksy/Stark Raving is not just the gatekeeper. They're also our seller, if you will, our publicizer.
I was just going to come, but that was my next question. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you've always known I can read your mind. We've always had the task, even before ebooks started at all, we've always had the task of promoting our books, because we knew unless we were, Michael Connelly or Jeffrey Deaver or somebody like that, our publishers weren't going to do it. So we would spend tons of time promoting our work. As the internet has taken over, you know, we're doing the same thing, we're just doing it differently. We're doing it on Facebook, and some are doing it on Twitter, although I've still managed to avoid that. And you know, it's a real onus. For one thing, it's hard work. And for the other thing, you know, it takes away from writing time.
I have a friend who's incredible with his blog. He's amazing. He does a fantastic job of generating just the proper sense of false intimacy with the audience to get them to buy his work. Yeah. And I want people to form a loving, sexy relationship with Stark Raving, so I can just keep writing. I would be terrible on blogs. I mean, you know, like I could have to shut down comments every day. I can't be trusted to blog, you know. I was like, you know, it's like punching babies in the face would be like my post title, shut down. You know, like it's not, this is not cool. I'm here to happily hide behind a Ralph Steadman logo. I'm so excited about it.
As well as the technology that Booksy's bringing to this.
Right.
I don't think there's anybody sitting on the couches here that's going to, okay, yeah, we're aware of the word technology, but the rest of it, how it works and how it's going to interact, we are Booksy and Stark Raving are trusting us to bring valuable content to the company. We're trusting Booksy and Stark Raving to handle the technology side of things to get us out to the world. Exactly. And that's a big sigh of relief for me anyway, that I've got somebody else who's got my back when it comes to that stuff. Well, and that's why we're here.
People to do the stuff they love. You know, all of us are, you know, we're all capable, you know, you're capable of creating the ebook. It's tedious and time consuming, but so that's why you know, let the people who like to make the books, right? Yeah. And people who like to sell the books, sell the books.
And let us write them.
Division of labor is totally cool.
Yeah.
You know, this whole like one-man band thing is overrated.
Yeah, there's a reason I didn't build my own house, because it would fall apart.
Yeah, I mean, unless I like come back to life as Frank Lloyd Wright, I'm not building my own house.
It's not
you know?
Yeah, I think that you've hit upon some of the main aspects of what we're hoping for with Booksy and Stark Raving, is that they're going to get the stuff out there, whether it be specifically that you just do ebooks, or whether you're doing, whether you're also at the same time being traditionally published, so that it will drive the audience to you, you know, to let you get your content, your product, your stories out to the people. I think that's a good one to end on.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you, everybody.